Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Inspector Craig Knight. I apologise if my nose is in here at some stage. It's purely and simply because we need, obviously, you to hear what's going on. Allow me, first of all, to tell you a little bit about me. I've been a police officer for 16 and a half years. In that time, I've worked in 2 police forces, in Kent and here in Surrey. The reason that I joined the police force and the reason that I'm stood here today are exactly the same. I joined to make a difference. You joined Neighbourhood Watch to make a difference. And this evening, I'm hoping that together we can make that difference over the course of the next 12 months and beyond. And I'm hoping this is going to work. It does. So what can you expect from me this evening? Well, I'm going to give you, hopefully, a little bit of history. I'm going to tell you about how we police the county. I'm going to tell you about how we work, how we operate as police officers and PCSOs. I'm going to tell you how my team looks, what it looks like, who I manage and what I do with those staff. I'm going to tell you how we're doing. I'm going to give you some statistics, some lies, damn lies and statistics. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what tonight is about and where we're hopefully going longer term. I'm also hopefully going to break that up with a little bit of science, a little bit of history, and I promise you there isn't an exam, so you're okay. That statement was written in 1822 at the creation of the Metropolitan Police. It stands the test of time now, as it did then, and it talks about the public and the police working together. And that's what this evening is about. It's about a partnership. I can't be successful without your help. And I'm hoping that with our help, you can be successful. And that's what tonight is all about. And that was written in 1822. So how do we police in Surrey? What does that look like? We have 3 tiers in essence. It's a little bit more complicated, but we have 3 tiers of policing. We have a response tier. That response tier is the team that you get when you dial 999. It's the team that you get if you dial 101 and say, I need somebody within the next hour at your door. They work 24/7, 365 days a year. You will always get that response when you dial 999. We anticipate in the Epsom area to be with you within 15 minutes, hopefully before then, and hopefully deal with whatever we find professionally, courteously and well. If you have an issue with that in any way, shape or form, then you can always come back to me and tell me about it. We also have an investigation tier. The investigation tier are our CID colleagues. They will investigate crimes from murder to theft of a bicycle and everything pretty much in between. And we have the neighbourhoods, the bit that I have the responsibility for and my colleague, my boss, Mr. Bristow, has responsibility for. That's the bit that I'm very passionate about. I'm hoping some of that passion will wear off this evening, because I think the neighbourhood bit, the neighbourhood strand, is by far and away the most important strand. I'd probably say that anyway, because it's the bit I'm in charge of. But I think it's important that we get a service delivered directly to your door, a local service. Similar to kind of the old milkman and the postman and everything else, that local service delivery, that local team, Dan, Graham and his colleagues and friends, that work alongside you to deliver a local service. My job is to make sure that happens for you. So what about Epsom Ewell? I manage a team of 44 people. I have 6 neighbourhood teams, each of those teams operating in a little geographic area within the borough. I have a neighbourhood support team that 2 sergeants operate with, and they assist the neighbourhood teams when needed in terms of additional numbers, and they're a sort of proactive arm, if you like. So they're out there this evening, working in the town centre and in Stoneleigh and elsewhere. I also have specialist officers, classified there as youth, casualty reduction, licensing, and I have dedicated support staff, and they are dedicated, and I mean that, they are genuinely very dedicated. And when you pick up the phone to talk to the borough team, you may get Sam behind me, You may get Sam, you may get Teresa, or one of my colleagues answering the phone. And they do a cracking job for us. I also work in partnership. I work in partnership with the Epsom Ewell Borough Council. Some of the councillors are here this evening. I work with Fire and Rescue, with Trading Standards, and a whole number of other agencies. So when you see the public face of policing, if you like, me and my colleagues out and about there doing it with you, the reality is that there's a whole army of people that are operating in your borough to support you. You are not alone in this, and that's important to stress. Anybody know where that was, that photo? Brickfields. That's the Stoneleigh Home Guard, 1941, not last week. Found that on the internet. I don't think Graham's in that picture. Actually, it might be. What do we do for you? Well, we work, as I said, in partnership. There are lots of things going on in that slide. I've highlighted one there, Neighbourhood Watch. I don't expect you to know each of them, and believe me, there isn't a test, so I won't be testing you at the end. But Neighbourhood Watch is a part of a much wider group of individuals throughout the borough that operate day in, day out to make your community safer. But what does that actually look like? What does it mean? This is the stats bit, and then I'll move on, I promise. Surrey Police is quite a successful police service. We're successful because we work with you to make it successful. We couldn't do it, as Mr. Bristow has said, alone. Confidence in the police service, in the service that we deliver, is running at about 90% of the people that we phone up and ask, or the people that independent companies phone up and ask. Antisocial behaviour satisfaction is running at about 80%, a little bit above that. That's class leading. In this country, we are top of the 43 forces, pretty much in those levels of satisfaction and confidence. But what does that really mean? Well, what it means in Epsom and Ewell is that overall crime this year so far is down by 20%. Serious crime is down by a quarter. And that means 400 fewer victims so far this year. That's the only stat that I'm interested in. 400 fewer victims so far this year. That's incredible. It's not incredible because of the work that my team are doing, it's incredible because of the work the borough is doing, of which I'm lucky enough to be a part. That's the bit I'm passionate about. That's why I want Neighbourhood Watch to be a success in your area. I want 400 more fewer victims. "12 months ago, I looked at Neighbourhood Watch, and I asked some other people to look for me. Frew was one of them. And that map shows us 12 months ago where we were, roughly speaking, with active neighbourhood watches. Some of you might disagree with that slightly, and that you'll say, hang on a minute, I had a watch 12 months ago. But in terms of really active neighbourhood watches, we didn't have very many. I'm going to show you a slide in a few minutes which changes that picture. This is the science bit. First of all, I promised you a bit of history. Did anybody see the David Letterman show with Mr. Cameron? Don't worry, this isn't political in any way. When was the Magna Carta signed? 1215, absolutely. June 1215. I've got the benefit of my notes in front of me. After the Barons' Revolt. Rule Britannia? Written by who? James Thomson wrote the poem, and Thomas Arne set it to music. That's the history. There is no exam. I just wanted to decide. This bit is the history of neighbourhood policing and the science of neighbourhood policing. And I call it ducks, dens and wolves. What that means is there are victims, they're the ducks. There are locations, that's the den, and there are offenders, and they're the wolves. That triangle is a bit like the fire triangle, if you ever learnt that at school. If you take one of those things away, the crime can't occur. And that is actually quite scientific, if you think about it. But it's also very straightforward. Because for me as an inspector in an organisation, and for my colleagues, the moment we start influencing one of those three things, the likelihood of the crime diminishes. So if I work towards those three things, towards making fewer victims, towards putting the criminals away in prisons, and also to make places safer, then the crimes can't occur. So it's relatively straightforward, but there is some science behind what we do. One of the things about neighbourhoods, about being in an environment like this, we're the dens, we're the locations. You are the active guardians to those locations. I can't be here, we can't be here all the time. We're passing through, if you like. I'd love to live here, sadly I can't. I can't afford it. The reality is that you are the active guardians of this community. I rely on you. In this room there are nearly 100 set of eyes and ears. I'm only one. My colleagues are 44 in total for the borough. Yes, we're trained to do what we do, so we can have quite a big impact, and we carry lots of kit. But the reality is that we police the community as a result of community intelligence. And that's you. That's what you do. I'm going to talk very briefly about engagement and what that means. Real engagement is a two-way conversation. Me standing here and delivering this is one-way engagement. What I'm hoping for this evening is a two-way engagement. I'm looking forward to the questions that will come later and the debate that we'll have. But why engage at all? Why bother? I could just deliver a set of policing to you and respond to 999 calls and respond to your calls for service. But the reality is, going back to that statement from Robert Peel, I can only work effectively if I work with you. I can only deliver policing well if you agree with the policing that you're getting. The value for money, if you like, comes in you getting what you deserve as a community. The more active that community is, the more active the neighbourhood watch, the better the policing service will be, and the better the service that you'll get from us will be. Why? Well, we deliver better intelligence thanks to your calls. We respond better thanks to your calls. And we can be there thanks to your calls. We can also provide information, a two-way information flow of what's going on from a policing perspective and a community safety perspective, and what's going on from your perspective, what's different, what's changed in your community. And by you taking an active part in that, you can make things visibly better for your communities. That's the figure now. That's what it looks like. What a difference. That's thanks to the people in this room and those that can't be here tonight. Now, we're some way away from being perfect, but that's pretty darn close. So tonight should be a start of a process. It's a bit of a celebration. That, to me, is a community. That's a success. So why do Neighbourhood Watch? Why not something else? Mr. Bristow has kindly said that already it's a 30-year-old scheme, it works well, it's well established, and as a county we're not bad at Neighbourhood Watch. But the reality is that Neighbourhood Watch is about you. It's about how you want your community to be, what you want your community to feel like. If you weren't members of Neighbourhood Watch, I think your community would be slightly diminished as a result. You'd all still talk to your neighbours and say hi and other things, but Neighbourhood Watch enhances that. It makes it that little bit better. And Neighbourhood Watch for me is about two things. It's about community, and it's about a sense of ownership. This isn't my community. This is your community and our community. Neighbourhood Watch makes that happen. And it works. In May and June of this year, sadly, this area suffered from some burglaries. That figure is dramatically reduced, thankfully. Why is it reduced? Because of the calls that this community made that led to arrests, that led to stop checks, that led to us knowing what was different and who to look out for in this community when burglaries were happening. Had this neighbourhood not responded in that way, those burglars would not have been caught. That's a success. That's what neighbourhoods are about. That's what Neighbourhood Watch is about. That's why I get so proud about my team and about communities that I work with. That's why I'm so proud to be a police officer. Because when it works well, when communities act with us and work with us, the power of that community to send a clear message to those criminals, those wolves in that triangle, is massive. And that's what I want from this community. I have very high expectations, by the way. Lewis Carroll wrote that in Alice in Wonderland. It's a nice statement, but the reality is, it kind of says what I'm looking for. Tonight is about celebrating where we are. It's also about recognising there's a bit of a way to go yet. I don't know how many people exactly live on the ward in this area, but wouldn't it be great if we had 50% of them in Neighbourhood Watch? That might be wishful thinking, but what about all the young people? There's a couple of them in the audience here tonight. Let's get young people involved in Neighbourhood Watch. Let's get other communities, the church community, involved in Neighbourhood Watch. The potential for success with the clear sense of ownership that's already been demonstrated in this room is enormous. To have that sense of community, really bring it home for the area, would be a real success for me. So begin at the beginning and go till you come to a stop or come to an end. That for me is a very successful community, one that is a two-way conversation, one that brings the community to policing and policing to the community. And that starts here in this room. A few thank yous before we go on to this. Benny, thank you so much for organising this evening. I'm told that your nickname is soon to be Mr. Blog. There are 1,750 hits on the blog, or thereabouts, so far. That's incredible. Benny's also arranged the audio and the PowerPoints, brought everything together, and has kind of been the man behind the scenes this evening. Jill Kamek, she's over there. Jill's allowed us to use the church this evening. Great facility. Thank you, Jill.